in a short press briefing yesterday, President Joe Biden was caught on a hot mic saying this.
What do you think President Biden inflation that? Do you think inflation is a political liability?
Thank you.
Do you think inflation is a political liability?
That's a great asset. More inflation. What a stupid son of a.
That was the leader of the free world calling a Fox News reporter an SOB. But that's not the first time he's made some colorful remarks to Peter Doocy. And in a mea culpa, POTUS apparently called Doocy directly on his cell phone to apologize and tell the White House correspondent, quote, not to take it personally, buddy. So here to weigh in on the president's use of choice language, investigative journalist and co-host of Boom Bust, Ben Swan. Now, Ben, what do you think of the president's remarks? I mean, was it a gaffe, or do you think he wanted Peter Doocy to hear that comment?
I don't think he necessarily wanted him to hear the comment. I don't think he remembered the fact there was a microphone right in front of him that could, be heard, because obviously when you're in the room, right, it's not necessarily projecting out into the room. But I think it says a lot about this president, right, which is that obviously he's frustrated. He's frustrated with the circumstances around him, but he's also frustrated with the fact that he's used to no one challenging him or asking any questions. By the way, we should mention the press conference that Peter Doocy's walking out of, and he's trying to ask this question about inflation, right? As he's walking out, the important point of this was that the president refused to take questions at this press conference, as he does at almost every press conference he holds, because he doesn't like answering questions from reporters because his handlers won't let him. And so the fact that Peter Doocy yells something out and his response, I think it says a lot about this administration and where it is right now. Yeah. Now, compare and contrast this to his predecessor, Ben, to President Trump. Trump was obviously known for his gruff language. What if Trump had made that remark to, I don't know, say Jim Acosta at CNN? Right. Well, it would be wall-to-wall coverage all day long across every single network. They'd be calling for an impeachment hearing. The insistence would have been that President Trump is continuing his war against journalists, right? That's what the whole thing would have been, because that's really what we heard for 4 years. And actually, let's be honest here, right? Trump loves to poke people. That's a big part of who he is and a big part of the character that he put on. However, he had much, much more aggression from the White House press corps and from reporters than any president in modern history, who went after him every single day. This president doesn't have anybody going after him. Peter Doocy, that's the Rottweiler in the White House press corps. And no offense to Peter Doocy, but come on, the guy is barely able to muster any kind of serious question, and he's the only one who even tries. Yeah. Now, take a walk through American history and presidents here and their mastery of the English language. Ben, what changed? And do you think any president's use of certain language has any effect or perhaps even shapes American culture at large? Yeah, how much does it shape the culture? I think it certainly does, or maybe it's a reflection of the culture. Maybe that's the right way to put it. I mean, go back into the 1980s. Obviously, you had President Reagan, known as the great communicator, the idea that he had this incredible articulation when he would speak. I think the closest that we've seen to that in modern, most recent history would be President Obama, who spoke very well, very articulate. Then you had Trump, who spoke like the everyday guy, right? And just said whatever he thought and loves to poke people, as I said. And then you have Biden, who presents himself with an image of being a tough guy. He loves this idea that he's a tough guy, and so he kind of talks out of the side of his mouth, and he has this attitude that he gives off. And the problem is that he doesn't come off as tough because he always seems to be lost. Yeah, I think he's trying to do the whole John Wayne thing, it's like a piece of straw out of his mouth. Now, since Biden hit the campaign trail in 2019, we've seen him become increasingly hostile to members of the press who, as you alluded to, who lob anything other than softballs at him. So is this in part, Ben, the fault of the press for letting it get here? Well, I think it is a big fault of the press here. I think it's the fact that, again, Biden is surrounded by handlers, right? He doesn't have to take serious questions. When he sits down for any interview, he can't handle any serious question, even as softly as it's asked. And by the way, let's be fair here, it's not just the Biden issue. His vice president, Kamala Harris, has the exact same problem. She'll sit down with Lester Holt. She'll sit down with the Today Show and just be lobbed a lot of, softballs, but some serious, semi-serious questions, certainly not aggressive questions. And they can't respond to them. They get flustered, they get angry, and they're angry that any question is asked of them that they believe shouldn't be asked. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, how dare you do your job, Ben Swan. Thank you so much for weighing in.